Essex's roller coaster of a season continued on the first day of their LV County Championship match with Kent in Tunbridge Wells, where a number of visiting batsmen got in without scoring really big. James Foster batted after winning the toss, and after Nick Brown and Jake Mickleborough opened up with 16 runs in the game's first 5 overs, the latter edged Matt Hunn behind to Sam Billings after making just 3. Brown has been in the form of his life over the last few weeks, and he dominated the early scoring, making 30 of the 38 runs on the board, when he was trapped in front by Callum Haggett, a wicket very much needed for the home team at this stage. Kent, who came into this match low on confidence in red ball cricket, following a large defeat to Surrey at the Oval last week, will have been pleased with their start, but the rest of the morning was looked after by Tom Westley and Ravi Bopara, both of whom looked in good form. Bopara cleared the rope off James Treadwell, 2 players whose England careers now seem to be behind them, doing battle. In the same over, just before lunch, Westley was at a 50 off 79 balls, from which he'd struck 9 fours, and at the break he and Bopara had carried the total up to 110 for 2. Essex came into this game on the back of a very handsome win over Glamorgan. They began the season ever so well before they hit the buffers, but once again they've started to find their feet and are looking to finish off the red ball summer in the same way as they did last year. With Westley playing some gorgeous cricket shots, it appeared that this was going to be another good day for the visitors to the Neville ground. Wesley had a life when he was dropped in the slips by Treadwell, but the batsman didn't make the most of that, as he was dismissed for 77 when Hunn held on to a very sharp chance near his ankles to end a third wicket partnership of 111, which had Essex on top. But Bopara soon followed, edging a full delivery from Darren Stevens to Sam Northeast, the batsman departing with 42 runs to his name at 163 for 4. Stevens thought he'd also got rid of Jesse Ryder early, but the Kiwi survived this very big appeal for LBW. It meant that Ryder and Ryan Tenduscarter were able to start another partnership which soon promised a lot. When given the opportunity to do so, both batsmen gave the ball a fearful thwack as they put on 41 runs for the 5th wicket in a dozen overs, which had their team into the 200s. Ryder was looking good when he drove Mitch Claydon on the up and into the hands of Joe Denley in the covers. The New Zealander was out for 24 at 204 for 5. At this stage, Essex would have been hopeful of amassing a total well in excess of 300, especially with Tenduscarter picking off his shots well, most notably off Treadwell, who didn't have the surface to work with as he did last time out in that defeat to Surrey. Only 2 Essex batsmen made the most of the conditions in Tunbridge Wells, Tenduscarter the second of them, as he made it to a 50 off 77 balls with this couple of runs off Hunn. Tenduscarter had struck 7 boundaries in his half-century, and he dominated a partnership of 36 with Foster, who went for 6 when he was eventually given out, caught behind off Stevens, a man who was at the beginning of a day-altering spell. He soon removed Tenduscarter for 54, Billings with quick reactions behind the stumps this time. Haggett then helped out Stevens by giving Billings some more work to do. David Masters with the top edge after making 5 of a score of 260 for 8. Haggett struck again in his next over before another run had been added. Graham Napier hitting his drive just too straight, Haggett doing the rest to send the batsman packing for 11. Billings then bagged his 5th catch of the day and Stevens his 4th wicket as Jamie Porter was also out with a total on 260. Essex losing their last 5 wickets for 20 runs. Stevens with 4 for 37 from 23.5 overs, including 12 maidens. There were a dozen overs left in the day for Kent to make the most of their bowlers' good work, and Daniel Bell-Drummond was in one of those moods. Rather than trying to block out the remaining time, he played plenty of shots, as all but Masters were expensive. Bell-Drummond raced to 46 off 34 balls, these just a small selection of his 10 boundaries. The returning Rob Key was a little more defensive-minded, but he too did a good job to ensure that this was his side's day by the close of play. These 2 openers scored their runs at 5.66 per over, which meant that 68 runs were quickly knocked off. So the home team will resume on the second morning, 192 runs behind and with all of their first innings wickets still intact.